Welcome to Morning Message for January the 28th. Many years ago, after I'd just purchased some of those wonderful Paderno pots, I was cooking with them, and I'd taken one of the pots that had a handle and cooked something in the oven. I don't remember what it was that I was cooking, but that's what I did. So I took it out of the oven and I put it on the stove, and I turned around and did something else, and when I reached back for the pot, I did exactly what you think I'm talking about. I picked up the pot by the handle after having come out of an oven that was 375 degrees or 400 degrees, whatever it was. And I only had the handle in my hand for perhaps as long as it takes to pick up the pot and put it right back down again. 1, maybe 2 seconds. And the pain was excruciating. But I don't really remember the pain as much as I remember the sensation, the general sensation, and a very strange experience, which I would say was like having my life pass before my eyes. Now, it wasn't like in the movies, where there's a montage of all the different things that might have happened to me, from my birth to my first day in school to getting my driver's license to whatever. It wasn't like that at all. It was more like all of the emotions that were associated with that. Everything that I felt over my life so far or at that point. That was what that experience was like for me, of having a life worth of emotions pass through me. Now I ended up with tenderness in my hand, sort of the length of my hand and the tips of my fingers, just the parts that would have been touching the pot handle. And that was for several days, so there's no major damage done to my hand or anything like that. It's just uncomfortable for a few days. But still, that was the experience that I had in terms of that. Perhaps the oddest emotion, or at least at the time I thought it was odd, that I experienced was that of regret. Reflecting on it afterwards, I didn't expect that to be one of the emotions that I felt. But since then, I've had time to reflect about it more. And I always find it an odd sort of thing to see, a celebrity being interviewed and they talk, or perhaps are even asked if they have any regrets. And invariably they say that they don't have any regrets. I think either they're lying to us, or they've misunderstood the question, or they're simply not answering the question that's been asked. Because I think the answer they usually give is whether or not they have any regrets about where they are or where they've ended up. The reality is that all of us experience regret. And that feeling of regret that I had that day holding that pot wasn't just about the things that I had done that I shouldn't have, or the things that I didn't do that I should have, but it was about all the things that I was planning to do, and even the things I hadn't yet thought to plan to do. It was a whole gamut of regrets that I had. And I can honestly say that I don't regret where I've ended up this day. But do I have regrets? Do I have regrets from yesterday or from last year or from any time? Of course I do. It's inevitable that we would have regrets if we're really thoughtful about our lives. I was thinking this morning about, I wonder if the same thing happened to me today, what the last 10 months, what emotion would rise to the surface of the last 10 months. Frustration, fear, anxiety. I don't know what it might have been, but I'm sure it would have been strong and it would have been powerful as I and all of us make our way through this this pandemic. I think I didn't expect regret to be such a strong emotion in that experience. And so consequently, in all these years, I've thought a lot about regrets. And I think that one of the things that I hold on to is that, regret isn't necessarily a sin, or the things that you did or you didn't do that you regret aren't necessarily sinful things. If I regret that I didn't call Mom today, that may not be a sin, but it's still something I regret, and it's still something I feel a need to be relieved of. And I think that's part of the gospel. I think that's part of the expectation or the hope that we have. I think that's part of what Jesus Christ promises us, that those regrets that we experience, even though they may not be sins, will also be forgiven, that we will be able to move beyond those sorts of things. And that as we move forward, we will try and live without regret. We will try and do the things that we feel as though we should do, and not do the things that we feel as though we shouldn't do. I mean, even St. Paul, struggled with those sorts of issues. And that moving forward, we can all try to be more loving and more forgiving, more merciful and more helpful in our lives, in our families, in our communities, in this world, to be a positive presence in this world, despite all the negativity, despite all the challenges that we face, that we still try and be good, positive, loving people in this world. And that if our life should pass before our eyes and we experience all those emotions that come with it, that perhaps regret won't be quite such a strong one for us. And certainly that is the promise of the gospel, that everything will be forgiven and we can enter into that relationship with God, fully, completely, with our whole being, without any worry of a shame that's being exposed. My hope and prayer for all of you today is that this day brings you joy and an assurance of God's love and forgiveness. God bless. Amen.